Being a pro hero in the world of Boku no My Hero Koromiya requires one to put their body on the line at all times, no matter if their body is made of living cement like Cementos or made of centipedes like Centipeder. One must be sure that their body is always in top form, and the best example of this is the hero whose body is ready to go at all times, that being the body mass index hero himself, Fatgum, also known as Teoshiro Toyomitsu. Fatgum is a pro hero who works mostly within the Osaka area, specifically around the Esuhai City district, patrolling the streets with his own brand of takoyaki in hand called the Takoyanki, and as of recent, his interns by his side. Though, before he was patrolling with his interns, Fatgum was working with the police to help seize and stop the underground trade of the quirk-boosting drug Trigger. But before we get too into that, we should discuss the meaning behind his design and his name. Starting first with his design, Fatgum's massive cartoony size and shape is based on a Matryoshka doll, a common theme within Horikoshi's work actually, being brought up multiple times, though we see them here more represented metaphorically than actually physically, both in the idea that his quirk allows Fatgum to absorb smaller things inside of him, along with being a direct reference to his massive figure being more of a protective shell for his actual body underneath. Next you have Fatgum's name, Teoshiro Toyomitsu, which when broken down carries meaning linked to both his quirk and his character, starting first with his given name, Teoshiro, which when broken down means fat or thick-walled cop, playing both in the Fatgum's quirk and his size, but also his history with working with the police. Alongside this, you have Toyomitsu, which when broken down means a rich or ample abundance required to be full or satisfied, which is a direct reference to Fatgum's quirk, since for him to use it effectively, he needs to eat a large amount of food. Though nothing is more direct than his hero name, with Fatgum being summarized into its two meanings. First you have the word fat, which is a summarization of his massive size, but then you also have the word gum, which helps get across what his quirk is, that quirk being fat absorption. Fat absorption is a quirk that allows Fatgum to use his body to absorb anything into it like gum. Then once the target is grabbed, Fatgum can adhere or stick his body fat to them, and over time, the target will slow until they are unable to move or lose the will to fight. This holds true for most things, be them blades, bullets, or explosives. As long as Fatgum can absorb them, they will lose momentum, and his body fat takes on the property of gum, meaning that it stretches and pulls, acting as a thick layer of protection for him so he doesn't have to worry about his own safety when doing so. Though this defensive nature of his quirk does come with a limitation on Fatgum's abilities, if he really needs to, Fatgum can tap into a hidden potential of his quirk, which allows Fatgum to store kinetic energy within his body and release it at his own discretion. This ability allows him to either safely distribute energy from things like an explosion, or build up the energy for one final massive attack. Though doing this does burn through his fat reserves, causing him to lose a ton of fat, aka his defenses, making him as vulnerable as anyone else. Now this quirk itself seems to be heavily inspired by characters like Choji from Naruto or Fat from Marvel Comics, where the character both has an abundance of fat which they can burn through for a more powerful yet vulnerable form. Though speaking of that, this balance of offensive and defensive abilities also is what makes Fatgum such an interesting pro hero, as his major ability is all about absorption and helps Fatgum build up a knack for detaining low-life criminals, along with having enough skill to overpower and take down a serious threat in a single attack. This is Fatgum's shield and spear, which is a major theme of his character and his role as a teacher. Now you might ask, what is the shield and spear? Well, it's a common term used in Asian culture based on the Chinese word for contradiction, which in itself is comprised of the characters for shield and spear, all due to a story from 3rd century Chinese philosophy which talks about a merchant who sells both a spear which can shatter any shield, alongside a shield which can never be broken. Then when asked what would happen if these two products came in contact with each other, he had no idea, meaning that he was a sham and both the products were a contradiction of each other. This linked the idea of self-contradictory to shields and spears, which is why it fits symbolically into the fight between Fatgum and Rappa and Tenga, as in the case of the two 8 Precepts members, they are constantly keeping both their shield and spear up at the same time, both physically and mentally, which causes their teamwork to deteriorate as time goes on, as the immovable object cannot work with the unstoppable force. where Fat Gum's spear and shield may never exist next to each other, as to create his spear, Fat Gum must melt away his shield, and to use his shield ever, Fat Gum must be without a spear. This balancing act of the immovable object and the unstoppable force helps remove the contradiction in the idea of shield and spear, allowing Fat Gum's actions to live up to their expectations, as his spear will shatter any shield it strikes, and his shield will never break. He is both the immovable object and the unstoppable force by choosing to only be one or the other at any given moment. And that aspect of his character helps him be a great mentor to his two interns, Kirishima and Tamaki. First, you have Tamaki, whose quirk revolves around eating and he suffers from confidence issues, while Fat Gum being his teacher is a no-brainer, as he both loves to eat and knows just the right food to suggest to Tamaki, but also alongside this, his teachings are designed specifically to help forge Tamaki into a powerful, unstoppable spear that can overcome any obstacle, given the fact that Tamaki's quirk basically makes him a living weapon, which Tamaki demonstrates the foundation of this spear in his fight against the 3 expendable bullets, as no matter what they threw at him, he always had something to shatter through their defenses. And then you have Kirishima, whose goal is to overcome his fear and become a hero who can protect anyone. So Fat Gum's teachings is done so Kirishima can forge himself into the immovable object or the unbreakable shield, who will stand tall in the face of fear and take whatever it has to offer to them with open arms, which is demonstrated in the moment between Rappa and Kirishima, where even after having his hardened skin be punched off his body, he stood tall like the near unbreakable shield that Fat Gum was forging him into. Fat Gum specifically seeked these two out, both due to his police eye for talent, but also to forge them into heroes that could replace him one day if they ever needed to, as due to the balancing act known as his quirk, Fat Gum is always teetering on the edge of danger, and his recent near-death experience 4 years prior to Hiroaka's story might have actually been a huge wake-up call for him. These two are the outlet for Fat Gum and the legacy that he wants to leave behind, his shield and spear respectively. Though no matter how strong or tough Fat Gum is, the most important part of his character is that he is genuinely a good dude, staying consistent to his morals throughout his years of hero work and willing to even apologize to criminals that he thinks he's punished too hard. He's actually so lovable that not only does in-universe characters like Uraraka and Sue call him cute, but Horikoshi himself has said that he'd love to ride on his shoulders one day. Because at the end of the day, Fat Gum is just a hero who gets it. He's just a character who gets it. He's one of those people who loves what he does, and I hope that out of any of the characters that I've talked about before, he gets to return for a future arc and gets to be a major player in it, especially one that features Kirishima and Tamaki, as they are the perfect trio. And if you enjoyed this video and like to see more videos like it in the future, I have a Patreon at patreon.com/ManyNotTheBadGuy. And if you want to overstuff yourself with lewdness, well, you can head on over to buyshimonetta.com and buy yourself a copy of Shimonetta, and it'll overstuff yourself to a point of combustion.